In this module, we will look at how we can analyze text with Azure AI Language service provided by Microsoft Azure. Now, when it comes to text, every day we create huge amount of text. It can be through emails, it can be through social media posts, or we are getting lot of online reviews from different customers when it comes to different business. And then there are a lot of business documents that are being generated, which consist of lot of important information in the form of text. Now, in order to analyze this text, to extract some meaningful patterns or to get some meaningful insights from that text that is being generated, you can leverage artificial intelligence, right? So using the analysis through this artificial intelligence, you can take some decisions when it comes to business, when it comes to taking some action based on the reviews provided in this text that is being generated. So when it comes to Azure, we have got Azure AI Language service provided by Microsoft, and it offers an API which you can easily integrate with your application, which helps you to analyze the text. And then your application can behave like a smart applications which will be able to analyze the text using the artificial intelligence using this Azure AI language service. Now, when it comes to Azure AI language service or the resource provided by Microsoft Azure, there are different capabilities or there are different areas where you can use this service. So you can use this service for detecting the language. So when you provide a text document with having some text written in some particular language to this Azure AI language resource, it can detect and it can provide you the language of the text that you want to analyze. And next, it has key phrase extraction. So you can extract key phrases from your text. Like, let's say you have a text related to some news of a new yard. So what are the different key phrases? So using these key phrases, when you extract from a large document, you will be able to understand the bigger picture of that document, or you will be getting to know, okay, this particular document or this particular large text is about some new yard or some news related to new yard. And next, you have something called sentiment analysis. This is very important. So when it comes to the feedback data that is being generated or the reviews of your, let's say, take an example of a hotel. If you're running a business of a hotel or a restaurant, and then let's say if you want to know how your customers are feeling about the services provided by your restaurant. So based on the feedback that your customer is providing, you can analyze the sentiment of your customers, whether it is positive or negative, and based on that sentiment analysis, you can take a particular action, or you can, if you see that your customers are feeling something negative about your business or the services you are providing, you can take some improvised actions, right? So that's where this sentiment analysis is very important when it comes to analyzing your reviews or feedback. I mean, using this Azure AI language resource or using artificial intelligence, this becomes very easy. Otherwise, reading hundreds or thousands of feedback data, it is not possible to do manually, and also to make out whether it is a positive or a negative from large amount of feedbacks. It is not a very easy task. Now, when it comes to named entity recognition, so this particular service can also help you to find some entities like location, organization, people present in a document that you are trying to analyze. So it can extract certain particular categories of text, like if you want to check what are the locations, different locations mentioned in your document, or if there is a mention about some particular kind of people, some celebrities. So using this named entity recognition, you can fetch or you can extract particular entities that you are targeting. And next you have something called entity linking. Now, once it has extracted the entities, you can also get the reference to some Wikipedia articles, web URLs, where you have the reference of those particular entities that has been extracted from your text. So we will look into each of these capabilities in detail further. So in order to use this particular resource, you have to create a resource called Azure AI Language resource in your Azure subscription. And once you create, you will get an endpoint and a key. And once you have these credentials, you can call the API of this particular resource using a JSON request. So it's a REST API, or also you can use the SDK that is present in different various programming languages, and you can make use of Azure AI Language resource. So you can make use of Azure AI Language resource in your application via REST API by using a JSON call, or you can also use the SDK libraries that is provided by Microsoft Azure, and it is available in different programming languages. So now let us look at each of these capabilities in detail. First of all, when it comes to detecting language. So now we know Azure AI Language Detection API can evaluate your text input or the document input that you provide to it, and it can return the language identifiers. So basically it will provide you certain identifiers with which you can understand, okay, this particular text is written in this particular language. It also provides a confidence score along with the identifying what language it is. It also provides the confidence score, which means that it tells you how confident the API or your AI resource is about the language that it has identified. So this score varies from 0 to 1. So as it approaches 1, it means that the confidence is high. When it comes to the use cases, some two examples I have written here. So you can use this kind of capability when you have a repository, okay, wherein you are collecting the text without knowing any language in which this text is being collected. When you're collecting, you're not aware. So what language your text is being collected, and you're just piling up your repository with some text. And now if you want to segregate that and you want to divide it, those content as per the language, so you can use this to detect the language of that text. And then very good use case is the chatbots. So it helps the bots to detect the language of the user's message. So when user is trying to communicate with the bot, it can check what language is user trying to send the message, so that chatbot or your bot can respond in that appropriate language. So it makes the conversation very easy for the bot as per the user's message. Coming to the key features of this particular capability is that Azure AI language resource can detect the language with a confidence score ranging from 0 to 1. And each document has the input size limit, which must be under 5120 characters. So your particular one document should be not exceeding 5120 characters. But when it comes to the request, within each request, you can send a collection of 1000 documents in a single request. So when you're trying to call the Azure AI Language Detection API, you can call API with submitting 1000 documents in a one request itself. And each document can have up to 5120 characters. Now let's look at the kind of request that you can send to your AI language detection API. So your JSON request should be properly formatted JSON payload, which has certain parameters that you need to provide, certain attributes that you need to specify. Like you need to specify kind. Kind is nothing but what kind of capability that you're trying to browse or you're trying to call, which API you're trying to call. So for language detection, we mention it as language detection. And then this is the optional section under parameters. You can include the model version. Like what model version, underlying model version you want to use to carry out the task, to carry out the language detection task. So we mention it as latest model, whichever is deployed. And then you mention the analysis input. So this particular attribute consists of the documents that you want to analyze. And for each document, you have certain properties that you mention, that is ID. So this unique identifier, it is the unique identifier for your each document. So this ID tells you the which document this text is belongs to. Okay, and then you mention the text, actual text of the document that you are trying to analyze. And you can also mention country hint. So this you can provide just to improve your prediction accuracy. Okay, so here you are just providing the language of that country, you are just hinting it. Okay, it is an totally optional, you can also skip it. So similarly, you can provide array of documents, so you can provide another set of section where you have another document with ID 2 and then the text related to that document. So this is how you send a JSON request, and then the response that you get is also in the JSON form. And here also you have certain sections that you should understand. First of all, the kind, so the type of results that you are going to get. So here we are trying to detect the language. So the result is language detection result. Okay, and under result you will get the results of each document. Okay, and under documents you will have array of the results entry. For each of the document you will have one entry. Okay, and you will have a section called detected language, wherein it will have three properties: name, ISO name, confidence score. So name is the name of the language and the ISO code of that language, and the confidence score, with which confidence this has been detected. Apart from that, it also mentions the ID of the document for you to identify, so for which document this particular language has been detected. And then you have something called warnings. So if there are any warnings while the detection process, that will be presented here. And apart from that, you will also have any errors if encountered, that also will be present in your response, and the model version that has been used to detect the results that has been present in your response. So this is about the JSON response of your language detection API. Now when it comes to handling multilingual content, let's say your document contains multiple languages text. So your AI language service will detect the predominant language with a lower confidence score. So what does this mean? So the text which is like more in content with a particular language, or you can say predominant language. Let's say if your document has 10 lines, then 5 lines of a particular language, and then 1, 2, 3 lines of some other languages. So whichever language is having more text in your document, that will be your predominant language detected. But here the confidence score can be lower. As you saw here, confidence score was 1 for this particular text. Okay, hello world text, the confidence score was 1. Even for this particular text, bonjour, this is in French, it was detected as French and confidence score was 1. But in this case, the confidence score can be lower. So let us see how the request and the response looks like. Let's say this is your request wherein you have a document with a text which is a mix of two different languages. Okay, and let's say the Spanish is the predominant language here. The text with the Spanish text is more. Then the detected language is Spanish, but the confidence score is not 1. It is little lower. This is 0.93 that it has given. So this is how the multilingual response will look like. Now, when it comes to ambiguous content, so handling the ambiguous content, let's say if your text or your content is not parsable or there is some ambiguous text there, service will return unknown for the language name and ISO code also with a confidence score of 0. So if your content has something ambiguous where your service is unable to parse that particular text, then the response will be unknown and the confidence score will be 0. So this was all about detecting the language in your text. Next capability we have is extracting key phrases. So as we saw above, key phrases means it tries to identify the main points in the document. So this process is particularly effective for larger documents with a maximum size of 5120 characters, because you want to infer what that document is about. What are the main points about that document? So in that case, this is very helpful to extract those key phrases, key sentences from your large text of documents. So purpose is to extract the main points or key phrases, and the size of the document, maximum size is 5120 characters, and this particular capability is effective for larger documents. Now, how do you access it? How do you use this particular capability? You can use this as well through REST API by submitting one or more documents for analysis. Now let's look at the request format for this particular key phrase extraction. Here also you provide a kind. So what kind of action that you want to do? There's key phrase extraction, and you provide the model version. So we've used latest here, and then you provide your documents. So here array of documents wherein you have to specify the ID, which is a unique ID referring to a particular document, and then you specify the language. So what language your text is or your document is, and then you mention the text that you are trying to analyze or you're trying to extract the key phrases from. So this is how your JSON request look like. So here you can submit a collection of documents. Now when it comes to response, so if you see this line, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. So now some important words that you want to extract here is change, world. So with these words, you will be able to understand. So this document is something about related to changes in the world or something related to bringing a change in the world, right? Now here if you see, it is the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. What are the key words here? Miles, journey, single step, right? So these kind of words, if you extract, you will be able to get the summary of your document that this is something related to journey, right? So what is the response format looks like for this API? Here also you will get a kind which mention what kind of results it is. It's a key phrase extraction results. Then you will have list of the key phrases under your document section, wherein what are all the phrases that has been extracted will be mentioned. Then if any warnings during the detection process or extraction process, any errors that has been encountered during the analysis, and finally you will have your model version that your API has used to come to these conclusions or come to these phrases. This is about key phrase extraction. Next, we have something called analyze sentiment. So sentiment analysis helps you to evaluate how positive or negative your text document is. So this can help you to get the valuable insights for your various applications, like quantifying the sentiment in your reviews for movies, books, or your products, right? So in every business, you have to judge what your customer is thinking about you, whether he's happy or whether there are some improvements that customer is looking for. So customer service. So you have to prioritize your customer responses to the emails, the social media messages. So how do you take the actions based on analyzing the sentiment that is present in these messages, right? So key features is it can provide the overall sentiment of the entire document. It can also provide the sentiment at the sentence level. Let's say you have a large document which consists of 1,000 lines, and then you want to check each and every line, and you want to know what kind of sentences are positive and what sentences are negative, or what is the percentage of the positive sentences and what is the percentage of negative sentences. So this particular analyze sentiment API of your Azure AI language resource can give you sentiment at the sentence level and also the overall sentiment of the entire document. Now let us see how it works. So here also you submit a document for your sentiment analysis as a JSON request, and there are certain sections that you specify when you submit a JSON request. So here you submit a kind wherein you mention it is a sentiment analysis, and again this is optional model version that you mention here as latest. And then you have a collection of documents. Again you specify the unique ID and the language in which your text is and the actual text for which you want to analyze your sentiments. So this JSON request looks similar, right? Here just that you are mentioning the kind as sentiment analysis, which tells the API, okay, that API has to analyze the sentiment from this text, or it has to identify whether this is a positive text or a negative. Now let us look at the response format. Now when it comes to response, API response will include the kind, again same like other APIs, like it will tell sentiment analysis results, a response it is. And now when it comes to the result itself, it will have a collection of your documents, one entry for each document, and under this section you will have ID, unique ID of your document, and the sentiment value. Okay, overall sentiment will be presented here under sentiment, which says whether it is a positive, neutral, negative, or mixed. So it can be any of these four values. Then it also mentions the confidence score for each, for positive, for neutral, and for negative. So you need to take whichever is the confidence score highest, that would be the sentiment value. So here for positive it is 0.89, for neutral it is 0.1, and for negative it is 0.01. So that's why the sentiment is positive, because the confidence score for positive is highest here. So this was about document overall sentiment. So it also provides the sentiment at the sentence level. So then you will have a section called sentences, and for each sentence the sentiment will be provided. So here for this sentence in the document, let's say first sentence is good morning. So for good morning the sentiment is positive. This is something they are just wishing, something positive, right? So confidence score for positive is highest here. That's why the sentiment is also positive. Apart from that, at sentence level, it also gives you the length of your sentence and the position, the offset value. It can also give some warnings, if any, related to sentiment analysis process and errors encountered, and then finally the model version that it has used to come to the conclusion of this sentiment value. Now, there is a very important thing when it comes to interpreting the results for a sentiment analysis. So, how do you interpret? Because you have been given with all the three confidence scores here, right? So, how the API actually arrives at this conclusion of positive, right? So, let's say when it comes to overall document sentiment, if all the sentences are neutral, then overall sentiment will be neutral. Okay? Let's say if sentences are only positive and neutral, like if you have your document with some sentences positive and some sentences neutral, then the overall sentiment at a document level will always be positive here. And if the sentences are only negative and neutral, then the overall sentiment is negative. But let's say if the sentences includes both positive and negative, then the overall sentiment is mixed. So then at the document level, the sentiment value will be mixed. And for sentence sentiment, it is just based on the confidence scores. Okay, so at the document level, this is how it decides the overall sentiment. But at the sentence level, it takes into account the confidence scores. Now coming to extracting the entities. Okay? So here these entities are something called named entity recognition. So it basically identifies the entities mentioned in your text and then groups them into categories or subcategories. So there are some commonly identified categories it actually divides into, like it identifies some person, okay, some famous person if it is there in the text, or locations, date, time kind of text is available, let's say some dates or some years. And then there are some organization related to, if there is a text related to some organizations, or there is a mention of the names of the organization, or there are some addresses or email IDs or URLs. So these are some of the categories. So what it does is it fetches all that text and then groups them under these categories. So key features here are entity identification. It detects particular entities within your text, then categorized them, first of all groups them and then categorize into some predefined categories and subcategories. And then it also provides the confidence score for each identified entity. Let us look at the JSON request format. Here your JSON request, when you submit the documents for entity recognition, has kind where you mention that it is for entity recognition. Then you have something called parameters, where this is totally optional, where you mention the model version. And then you have the input for analysis, which is your documents. You can here also submit a collection of documents, and same you will have the three fields that you have to mention: the ID, the language of your text, and the text itself for which you want to extract the entities. Now if you look at this text, Joe went to London on Saturday. So here there is a person Joe, and then there is a location, and then there is a day of the week, right? So these are some particular defined entities. So let us look at the response of your entity recognition API. Response will have the kind of your result. Here it is entity recognition result, and then it will have the list of entities found in each document. So text Joe, it has categorized under the category person, and then it also mentioned the location, that is your offset value, and the length of that particular text, and the confidence score. So this is the confidence score, which is nothing but tells how confident your model is in predicting this particular text as a named entity under the category person. Similarly, if you see, it has identified another text or another entity called London, categorized under location. It has also subcategorized under GPE. Okay, and then it is giving the confidence score, length, and offset value. Similarly, for Saturday, it is nothing but a date, time, and subcategory can be date. Okay, but here if you see, the confidence score is 0.8. Okay, because here it is Saturday, it is date, time. It can be time, it can be date, but it is not, neither date, it is neither time. It is, but it can be categorized under date, right? So here confidence score cannot be high, right? Because here model cannot be 100% confident, because it can be or it cannot be date or time. Next you have warnings or the errors and the model version. When it comes to interpreting the results here, identified entities are listed under text, categories and subcategories, and then you have position and length of each entity, and then you have the confidence score. So it, as I said earlier, confidence score is nothing but it tells how reliable the prediction is, or how reliable the recognition of your entity for each of these entities. So this was all about analyzing your text when it comes to using your Azure AI language resource from Microsoft Azure. So we have seen language detection, key phrase extraction, sentiment analysis, named entity recognition, entity linking. All of these deals with analyzing your text or a document of a text, and it has all these capabilities capabilities which you can utilize based on your requirement. Thank you.